Hi everybody. I wanted to give you a little bit of update and just share a little bit about my journey from the beginning. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Allison Efaw, and I am 53 now, but at the time when I was 44 years old, I discovered a lump in my left breast in the upper outer quadrant. And you know, I had those typical thoughts like, uh-oh, what is this? It's a lump. I don't know what this is. And I remember it explicitly because it was at Christmas, literally Christmas Eve, when I found it. We had just put our kids to bed and I was getting into the shower and I suddenly noticed this lump and it felt like a hard marble. Anyway, because of the Christmas festivities and the holiday, we waited till after that passed, and then I went in to see the doctor and they thought it was just another benign cyst, which I had had 12 years prior. Unfortunately, after the testing, we found out that it was a form of estrogen, progesterone, and HER2 positive breast cancer, what they call triple positive breast cancer. And I was not really familiar with any of this. Even though I have a background as a nurse, this type of field in oncology was really a whole new ball for me to learn. I just had no prior knowledge of what was going on. The surgeon removed the tumor. Sadly, he didn't get it all. And what we now know is that we didn't have clean margins. And after that, within a matter of just several months, the cancer spread like wildfire. I began the traditional course of chemotherapy and hormone blockers, bone marrow stimulants. Actually, I was put on 6 hardcore drugs. And so there I was feeling pretty comfortable and feeling in shape, doing all types of running and activities and exercises outside and at the gym. And then here I could barely function. And so my husband at the time had said to the oncologist, well, how long will she be doing all this treatment? And I remember the oncologist looked at him and she said, so that I couldn't hear it because I was there in the room, but kind of off to the side, but she said, until she passes. And that was a jolt for both of us. I couldn't imagine being on this therapy for several more months, let alone 2 or 3 years, because there was really no end in sight. They did not have anything else to offer me. So thus began my journey into exploring complementary and alternative medicine. And I saw a lot that was out there, but I didn't really see a whole lot in the United States. There was a lot overseas, particularly in Mexico and in the Caribbean. And then there were a few places in Germany, one in Switzerland, and then there might have been a place in Japan. But you really had to have a lot of money to go to these places. At the time, we were a one-income family. I was a homeschool mom with 3 kids. My children were ages 6, 8, and 12. And my husband worked in the Army at Fort Knox. So I decided to leave the country for a month, and I went to a clinic called Santa Vive, which is in Rosarito, Mexico. And while there, I learned about all types of medicine, not just alternative supplements and nutrition, but bioenergetic medicine, mental health. They had something called body code. They had psychiatrists, psychologists. They also taught you how to prepare your own food. They had instructions. And then even when you received various IV therapies, you were still learning. There were symposiums, there were various groups that attended, and the place just exuded warmth and wellness, which was so contrary to what we see in our typical cancer clinics here in the United States. Honestly, I could have stayed there for a long time. One nice thing about going to a cancer clinic is that all you have to do is focus on yourself, getting yourself healed, focus on learning the different modalities from supplements, nutrition, IV therapies, and many of these are not used here. So for me, it felt like I was in a crash course in graduate school, learning all these new modalities. When I came, and one other thing, when I was there, they also told me I had something called infected dental cavitations. These are the pits where your former wisdom teeth were, And what they have found, at least the owner of Santa Vive, Dr. Myron Wentz, he's written a lot about dental problems associated with cancer. We found out that I had an infection in both of my lower jaws that had probably been there for 25 years. Now, I never had any issues back there, so I was completely oblivious to this, but I went ahead and had the procedure done where they went ahead and opened up the backs along both sides of the jaws, and they fixed the teeth. There were holes there that were full of anaerobic bacteria. And I know this because I have the pathology report to prove it. Once they cleared that up and got me on a primarily plant-based diet with lots of supplements, juices, juice blends, and bioenergetic medicine, they had me do yoga, walking in the grass for grounding purposes, all types of approaches that really focused on holistic healing. I came home a month later and I was in complete remission. I thought that was very strange, how oncologists had said to me that there was nothing more they could do and that I would just have to suffer with these 6 treatments. I was taking Herceptin, Perjeta, Taxotere, Neulasta, Gozerlin, and Zometa, or alternated with Xgeva. And I was in a lot of pain and discomfort. But here I was now in complete remission. And I found it remarkable that in 4 weeks, they could completely change the course of the cancer journey I was on. So we eventually moved to Colorado. And when I moved here, even though I had been healed in the sense that I was in remission, what they'll say is no evidence of disease, or NED, I still had a lot of lesions throughout all my bones. I had 4 lesions in various ribs. My L4 and L5 were completely deteriorated. I had metastasis that had spread through my hips and pelvic regions. And so on a PET scan, my results looked like I lit up like a Christmas tree. But I started on medical cannabis. Now, I'm not talking about the stuff that they sell at the dispensaries, but the real RSO, which is also called Rick Simpson oil or full extract cannabis oil, called FICO. And I got on that while still using just one drug, and that was the Herceptin. And the Herceptin is a monoclonal antibody. What I've learned is that it comes from a Chinese hamster cell line. And these are not generic drugs. They are specifically created from creature cell lines, which is why they're called biosimilar drugs. And what this particular drug does is it binds to the cancer cells so that it prevents them from replicating. It's not the same as chemotherapy. It basically acts like lock and key so that the cancer cells can't keep proliferating. And anybody who has a HER2 positive cancer knows that your cancer is a lot more aggressive than the average form of cancer. With all that I learned and all that I've that I studied and researched while going through these treatments, I began to become very interested, and I thought, as a nurse, I never learned any of these things. And it frustrated me because I saw one picture of people healing and getting well in Mexico, and then I'd come home, and no matter how nice they tried to make the oncology clinic, to me it was always a place that just reeked of death, and it just did not seem like a pleasant place to be. Please don't get me wrong, not everybody who goes to a Mexican clinic is healed. Some people are much further along in their cancer journey, and they've been on either conventional therapies, or perhaps they didn't even know they had cancer until it was too late. And so not everybody is healed there. And I also want to say that some people do receive chemo, radiation, and surgery at those clinics because sometimes they need to pull out the big guns to get rid of a rapidly dividing or aggressive cancer before it impacts the heart or lungs or other vital organs. All of this set me on a stage and a path to start learning about holistic healing and wellness. I have to be honest, I thought I knew a lot, but more I discovered, I realized that God really provided so many unique things in nature for us to use. The problem is we don't know how to use them. And one verse that always spoke to me was Hosea 4:6a, which says, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge." There are so many therapies and things that I have since learned. And what that did is I thought, you know, if I'm going to learn these things, I might as well get credit for it. People would call me all the time. I've had doctors call me from overseas asking how I healed from the particular aggressive cancer I had, not using all these other conventional therapies. And I would share the information with them, and many people wouldn't listen. Actually, most people would just think I was giving them nice advice or suggestions. And it was frustrating because I'd spend countless hours. I think my husband's clocked over 1,000 hours that I have given of my time freely to people who were in need, many who were dying, but they just took it as a suggestion. I went back to graduate school. I finished a master's in integrative nutrition. I also became a certified health coach through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. I finished a master's degree in medical cannabis science and therapeutics because I know the power of cannabis and how it can heal people medicinally. And I want to share one thing with that. I'm not talking about people smoking pot, getting high. I don't advocate teens smoking cannabis because it does kill some brain cells in the prefrontal cortex. But if you use it medicinally for cancer or seizures or so many other ailments in the right way, and using the essential oil, it can really provide miraculous healing results. They're now starting to teach about the endocannabinoid system at Harvard and Johns Hopkins Medical School. So there's a lot that can be done with cannabis. You just have to learn how to use it properly. Also, I went back to school and I'm finishing my Doctor of Science in integrative health, which is a focus on biochemical nutrition, organic chemistry and nutrition, and we'll focus on molecular biology, nutrigenomics, and plant medicine. And then something else I noticed as I coached people going through cancer or their family members. Many people struggle believing that they're going to get well, especially when they've been told they have just a few weeks or months left to live. And while a doctor may not believe it's possible to heal, I believe it is possible to heal. And I also know that God gave us what we need to heal, but we need to know how to use what He gave us. And I don't give up hope. I don't believe that sickness is more powerful than healing. I just think we need to know what all's out there. And what might work for me may not work for you, and vice versa. And so what I've done is I discovered that if you can't get people to believe that they're going to get well, very often they won't. So I pursued another degree in clinical mental health counseling at Liberty University, and I'll be finishing that in about 1.5 years. And the whole point of this is I wanted to provide a coaching and mental health counseling service to cancer patients and their families who are really struggling with figuring out what to do. I think innately you know when you go to the doctor's office and they tell you you have that 6-letter word, right there you have fear, sometimes PTSD, you're still in a state of shock and you don't know what to do. And all you get when you go to our clinics is, and pardon my blunt way of putting this, but the cut, poison, burn approach. What the peer-reviewed literature shows is that there's a whole bunch of other modalities, from urine therapy, red light therapy, pulsed electromagnetic field energy, ozone treatments, hyperbaric treatment, methylene blue, hydrogen water. Oh my goodness, the supplements, there's tons of them. Graviola and curcumin, ginger, garlic, different teas, Essiac tea, Jason Winters tea. And I could go on and on. There are just so many modalities. And there's evidence for their use, including Ayurvedic medicine and traditional Chinese medicine. But if you go to the typical allopathic conventional oncologist, you're not going to hear about these things. And sadly, I've had a lot of oncologists that I've liked, and I've talked to them about this, and they will tell you point blank that even if they are familiar with these modalities, if it's not in the National Cancer Comprehensive Network guidelines, then they can't discuss it because they could lose their medical license. I really feel sorry for oncologists in this realm because they want to help people. They want to help their patients. It's a success for them when you succeed and you thrive and you heal from a debilitating, deadly disease. But their hands are tied. And that is why I did not become a nurse practitioner. I do not want to be held to the standards in the medical model. I do not want to have to prescribe a bunch of pills and drugs. So for the most part, I just use a monoclonal antibody. It's called Herceptin, and I take the original biologic Herceptin, not a biosimilar drug. That's another story because I had complications with a biosimilar. I also take a natural thyroid supplement. Other than that, everything I do is natural. I use infrared, I use grounding mats, I use an infrared sauna and red light therapy. I have a grounding mat that I lay on, and I also have a infrared mat that I lie on as well. I use hot yoga classes. Honestly, some of that is my best prayer time ever. I talk to God and it's quiet, and I just pray about all the things that are going on in my life and share with Him what's going on and what I need help with and what I need His wisdom with. I also have a journal speak practice that I started from my son Jonah's recommendation, and that's really helped me. I journal about 4 or 5 nights a week, and I write down all the things that are bothering me or the things that have occupied or ruminated in my mind that I don't need there. And when I do that, I feel better and I go to sleep, and I do sleep much better. So I take daily walks, I get out and go hike, I can now ski. A few years ago, my spine was in such bad condition that they were going to have to put a permanent 16-inch cement rod through my spine to stabilize all my vertebrae. The cannabis is what healed all the bone metastasis. I do not have any more lesions. I no longer have osteopenia, and I no longer have osteoporosis. So, what I'm going to be doing over the next several months is creating a business, a health coaching business, where I can help other cancer patients. I know a lot of docuseries and programs. I know a lot of biohacker strategies that work, and I want to help you. It's going to be my own business, and I will charge for this because I've spent the last 4 years in 4 different degrees. And you're getting not just me telling you what to do. I'm not selling you any products. I'm trying to help you survive and thrive through this ordeal. And there's a lot that I've learned over this course of my own experience. Having been a nurse for 28 years and now having been a patient, I've seen both sides. I don't knock conventional therapy. There is a time and place for it. Even some people we know in the community who speak out against a lot of therapies, many of them have had to have some conventional modalities performed. But you can't live on chemo. You can't live on radiation. You can't keep having surgeries because that anesthesia does kill some brain cells every single time you go under. But you can live on plants and herbs if you know how to pair them correctly and if you know how to use them to treat your cancer. So over the next several months and years, I will be continuing to add some credentials and certifications and degrees to my resume. But at least you're knowing that I'm studying this and I'm in these trenches with you, and I research everything before I use it. And I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to coach you along. You're really your best. You're going to know for yourself what is best for you, how you feel, how something makes you feel after you've taken it. And I just want to make sure you understand that I really have a heart to help people in this field. I know what it's like. I know what the disfigurement is like. I know how it feels to go through something like this. And cancer patients do not get counseling. We get resources from the social workers, but we do not get any counseling. Dr. Kelly, I'll wrap up with this. Dr. Kelly A. Turner, she was a social worker. She studied radical remissions, and what she found was that 60 to 75% of the time, while diet, nutrition, and exercise are integral, a huge component was the mental, emotional, and spiritual component that is often lacking. And so as a Christian, I want to be able to provide that. And I also can work with people who do not share the same faith that I do. But that's my heart's desire, and I look forward to working with you at some point in the future. Thank you.